Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Lionel. I'm your host for LT Productions, and you are watching I Watch You Watch. I'm covering BelAir, Season 4, Episode 8, and it is the series finale. A lot of emotions. I ain't gonna cry. I don't think I am. But yeah, it's all coming to an end. But I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Like, subscribe, comment, share this video. Now let's get into this episode, and I'll just share my thoughts. Okay, y'all. So we start this episode off with Nicolette's baptism. Jeffrey is the godfather, and Vi is the godmother. Also, while he's at the church, Uncle Phil gets alert that he's been awarded as Alpha Man of the Year. Will also gets a call while in church about that he's going to have to leave within a week because he's going to go to the business summer program at UPenn. So that's the setup as to what's going on now. Will is a little upset about that, but he knows that he has to go on and handle this. He just thought that he had all summer to be with the Banks, as well as the Banks. Hillary and Jazz, they have this creation of this infused food with a CBD product. Hillary also says that this will be our first batch and only batch because she's going to be returning to Costa Rica. She did speak with some of the locals down there, and the retreat founder is agreeing to allow her to open up a cafe, and that's where she wants to go. Of course, Jazz is looking salty because he thought that this was probably going to turn into something else, especially wasn't expecting for Hillary to leave again. So, Ashley, she gives her class speech at the end of the year. Everyone has to. And she writes a speech to baby Nikki. And just to speak a little bit about how she feels of BelAir Academy, they talk about inclusion and all this other stuff. You're the face of it, but they don't really care about your story. They like to put up this front as to being this diverse place. Viv and Uncle Phil heard her out and all that. She quoted something from James Baldwin. And that was that on that with her speech. She told the truth. And I think that's how Ashley has been throughout the whole course of this whole series. She's kind of been the truth teller, and she's been the one to say the things that other people have not been saying. Jeffrey, he's reunited with Penelope, courtesy of Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv. And they have this talk. Penelope says that, being in Kingston with also their son, they treated them just like family. He finally has cousins that he could be around, and it feels like home. And she wanted Jeffrey to consider, hey, why don't we just live in Jamaica? Will and Carlton, they had planned this camping trip that was supposed to be between him, Lisa, and Carlton and Mira. He wants to ditch that and just say, hey, why don't we two just go without the women? We'll get into more of that pretty soon. Phil is trying to help out with the baby to put on the swaddling clothes for little baby Nikki. Jeffrey was like, well, what's next for you? He said, right now, just concentrating. Oh, it was asked earlier before he got the alpha thing about what was next for him. And he said, with the opening of the plaza, he just said, 3 a.m. feedings. However, at this point, Phil and Viv also want to get into what's going on within California about the fires that's been happening, and he wants to help out with concentrating on the families that have displaced homes. And Jeffrey was talking about moving to Jamaica. Aunt Viv and Vi, they're outside and they're talking, and you can tell that Vi has this glow. What's going on? And she says that, she got a new man, but she's got a little roster going on. Got a couple gentlemen that also includes Lou. I said, she's also have taken up sewing and dancing. So she's loving life right now. Aunt Viv talks about the whole foundation thing, and she doesn't really know where to go with this whole situation because it's just like all the weight is still on her to get it done with no funding or anything. Vi says, whatever your path is next, Do you have to do it all, or even do it in this way? Vi says, be intentional with the next act that serves you. Don't do anything for somebody else. So, of course, Will and Carlton are camping, but basically on the beach camping. Both of the guys forgot to bring groceries. They're arguing about that, and then next thing you know, the ladies pull up. And Amira is playing it off, but this was actually something that Carlton and Amira came up with to bring Lisa around to get them, Will and Lisa, to start talking again. There was a bunch of arguments at the time, blah, 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 blah. Lisa finds out, I guess Amira from Carlton told Lisa that Will lied about the whole teacher situation. At this point, they got the food, so the guys want them to stay so that they could have the food. Will goes down to where the beach is, well, not the water is. The sun is setting. Will and Lisa finally have a conversation, and he confesses that he lied about the whole teacher situation because he was hurt, and because of the kiss and all that, and he really didn't know about their connection. Are we really going to be good and all that? It was just better or safe to just break it off the way that I did. So they talk about being together. Lisa says, since you really got here, you've been my world. I've had you around forever and a day. And it's so easy to stay with you. So they end up just talking about, you want to break up. And they both agreed for now. Plus, it's just a quick ride from Philly to DC, DC to Philly. We never know what happens in the future, but let go of each other now just to see what happens. Which is very reminiscent of how things went down in on BelAir with Beulah and Will. They decided not to get married. Anyways, Vivian ends up talking with Phil regarding Ashley. Ashley doesn't want to go to BelAir Academy. She found a school that she really likes. It's in Baldwin Hills. And Ashley said, she would make all the sacrifices, but this is where she really wants to go, and she believes that she could have a better chance. And Phil says, I think that we need to do everything possible to make it happen for her. Okay, so back at the beach, it's night. I guess they've watched the movies or whatever. The group, they make a pact to come back to this spot once a year. They do these sparkler things and just say that I'm not good at goodbyes, so that's what we're doing it this way. So it was just kind of this, we're always going to be in each other's lives, no matter if we're together romantically or not, So when they get back to the Beck's house, there is a surprise goodbye party for Will. Aunt Viv gives this painting to Will, which I think that we've seen this painting before, broadcast before us, before even the show began, if I'm remembering. But anyways, there's a crown, and it's really unique. It gives me this Picasso type feel to it. Viv ends up telling Vi that I'm going to start my own artistic foundation. Why would I stay stuck building someone else's when I can do my own? And Vi congratulates her. Phil and Viv, they do announce that they're going to be moving from BelAir, and they'll be moving to West Adams. And this will be more accommodating to Ashley in the school that she wants to go to. And it's to bring them back to their roots as far as being amongst the people. I thought that was really cool. So there are a bunch of toasts. Well, there's a bunch of people that wanted to pay tribute to Will, and they give how they feel about Will and all that good stuff. And it was really heartfelt, warming. Jazz even got to say some things and all that good stuff. So they go to toast Will, and Will walks out. It's very overwhelming because he's trying to keep his emotions together because he knows it's the end. He doesn't want to think about leaving. So all the family ends up coming upstairs and helping Will to pack, as just another way to just to help ease him in his transition and all that. Now, during the course of this episode, he's have had a struggle as to finding out what type of speech to actually write and to say amongst the people for graduation. After that, he really got his inspiration, and that's just that on that. Viv and Carlton, they have a scene. Of course, we go back to his closet room. That's where he was hiding his drugs and all that. He's come through a lot. It was kind of recollected on that. Viv talks about his growth. Growth happens when you're uncomfortable. Oh, wait. Is this it? Wait. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Now we're on to Will's speech. There was just some key points that I wanted to bring out, just a few, about growth happens when you're uncomfortable. That's very true. Let your life get flipped and turned upside down, because you're going to land up on top. I said, okay. These writers are really writing. I'm telling you this much. I'm loving it. I think Felicia Pride is one of the writers or showrunners. She's actually the one that has developed the reboot of A Different World that's going to be airing on Netflix at some point. But anyways, I forget who the showrunner is, but they are writing. So anyways, they get back to the house, and of course it's now time for Will to go. Carlton is going to be traveling with Will and Jazz back to Philly. I'm like, that's that's a long route. Hopefully Jazz's car makes it. But anyways, Carlton's going. He said he's got some time before he has to go to Morehouse, so he'll stay out there for a couple weeks and then come back. They all do this group hug. Of course, it's very emotional. We find out that Hillary is staying, and she opened up her own cafe, Honey Bees, that is adjacent to Jazz. Jazz calls her on the phone, and they talk right across the street, and they do this little flirtation thing again. And Jazz is just happy that she's going to be staying for a while. She still doesn't want to leave the family at this point, with Aunt Viv just having her child and all that. Then, before they actually get out of town, Jazz, Carlton, and Will, they go visit the mountaintop. That's the same mountaintop that Will and Jazz looked at before they actually got to the Banks residence, as they looked upon all of California or LA area, you know. They spend a few moments there. Will wanted to stay there for just a few more seconds alone. And then, who pops up? Mr. Will Smith himself. Basically, he's coming as his older self. Will says, you know, I'm kind of just scared to leave, because he's scared that he's going to forget who he became here. And what if I have a problem when I return back to Philly, holding on to what I have possessed here? That's remarkable. You know, because Will is going right back to the same place where the trouble first started. Are you a new person? Can you hold on to that? Is there extra pressure because now you're not going to fit in like you did before? So either you're going to pull people up or people are going to leave you. It's interesting to return back after being gone from a place with a different mentality and all of that. So, older Will says, we're going to be okay. You know, you're going to do a lot of things. You're going to F up and all that. Forget about it. You're going to be okay, though. And that was the end of the whole series. First and foremost, I just want to honor Mr. Morgan Stevenson Cooper, who was the first to actually give us the series. It was a thought in his mind as to bringing this into a dramatic form, because we already had Fresh Prince of BelAir as a beloved comedy sitcom. And I know people were very cringe, like, could this really work this way as far as a drama? I think the drama was a perfect way to express things that they could not express on the show. I think in the beginning seasons, there were a lot of things that were touched on, but they had to be serious and also comedic at the same time. There was other serious things and serious moments that made it, like when Carlton was using a certain drug. Will was using a certain drug to stay up at night. However, Carlton got a hold of it thinking it was something else, and he OD'd on it. That was very serious. When Will got shot, Carlton felt away. He felt away as far as even being violated by the armed men, and then also not being able to protect Will at that time. And then, you know, the infamous Lou, when he came being a bum. And a lot of people received redemption arcs. Hillary kind of was a one-note type of person. She was the spoiled person. She got a job. However, there wasn't much growth out of her, but she got redemption. We got deeper into Jeffrey than just being the house person. We got into him. We got into the depth of the relationship that he has with Uncle Phil and also Aunt Viv, mainly between men. I mean, we've gotten to see a lot of relationships with the men. It kind of more was a dominant factor than it was even some of the women in their relationships and all that. We saw Aunt Viv come from Michelle Obama as far as being the first lady to coming into her own and wanting to do her own thing. Ashley's kind of evolved the same way. I think so. And, Will, I think he's involved the way that we kind of did think that would happen. I think that with the comedy, he did more scheming ways to try to get in and to do all this other stuff. But towards the end, he was a lot better. But that was more for comedic relief for the show. So Will had to play these different games and to be funny. And however, we got to see the solid boy turn into a young man. He was filled with a lot of anger, filled with a lot of different ideas of what the world is, and being so closed-minded because of his environment that he came from, it shifted him. And if you really wanted to know who my favorite character is, it's Carlton. Carlton is my favorite character, and I see a lot of myself in him. And when you thought that he was the person that had it all together, he was the one that needed to be broke down the most, and he was. The facade of who he thought he had to be and what he presented to the world, it wasn't true. He's been able to stop his manipulations, stop being jealous and insecure. He was able to face his fears of not being good enough or being average or being what people have made him out to be and what he's painted the picture to be. And I think he's excelling more. He's able to do things based upon what he wants to do. And his anxiety, of course, they really acknowledge where that came from. It's interesting as to how the drugs was to help him to cope, but I think the drugs was also there to help him rebel, so that he didn't have to be perfect and he can be imperfect by himself. And it was his dirty little secret, even in him coping with all the different stuff, different anxieties and stuff. I love him, and he had the best redemption and evolution era. Because again, I think that people would just see Carlton as this coon. I mean, we were able to make jokes about Carlton being a Republican and all that stuff. You know how Carlton viewed people and all of that, especially in the first few seasons. And people would have just left him there. However, there was a lot more depth, and I'm glad that the writers really took their time to develop Carlton and turning him into a fine young man that's going to thrive. He was going to thrive being himself. However, he was always going to hate himself deep down, even in what he was going to thrive in. He would have been an imposter, but now he can actually sail on his own. So although I think we should have gotten a couple more seasons, I'm happy at the ending. But this series means so much to me, y'all. Thank you, Mr. Morgan Cooper. Thank you to the cast, crew, everyone. I don't know if you guys will see it, but this series has changed me. This series has pushed me further to be who I need to be. You kind of given me hope towards family, with some things that I deal with on a daily basis. You allow me to see the strength of family pulling together for each other. The brotherhood, it's something that I have wanted. I can't get it though with my brother, because he did pass away, but seeing Will and Carlton be brothers, it was been phenomenal to see the brotherhood between Phil and Jeffrey, and everything doesn't have to be perfect and lined up and conflict comes. I think what has been best is just to see this black family talk, this black family come to resolutions, give options, and not just be, the parents aren't just disciplinarians. Of course, you're going to learn from this. You're going to lose this. Can you work to redeem yourself in this manner? You know, there's been a lot of things that have worked against Will from the beginning to the end, even with him of his own devices that could have locked him out of certain situations. However, he worked and didn't allow whatever he just did. I'm not what I did, basically. I'm not what I did. And allow me to let you know that I deserve to be in this space, despite what I did. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah. So I'm going to miss you all, but thank you for being that I've been able to encounter you in my lifetime. As far as just this being art, I love it. That's all I have to say, y'all. Y'all know the drill. You know, like, subscribe, share your comments and all that. And until the next one, peace.